I think everybody says that.
I know.
It's like if you hear the word playoffs, you can't help but say the playoffs. The playoffs.
We're going live. All right. Well, we are live. So right now, that entire conversation was live. David Wallace, aka Andy Buckley. What a pleasure to have you join me on this.
Throwing the Wallace glasses.
Yeah, you got the Wallace glasses. How you doing?
Great. I'm great.
Good.
I'm delighted to see you.
Hopefully, let me check to make sure that we are also live on Substack, because this is
I see the little thing that says live 39, 40 seconds, 41.
Wow. So look at you. You're more advanced in the technology than I am.
I'm kind of cutting edge, even though I'm in the paper business.
It's true. Yeah, my thing isn't working, so that's great. That's terrific. Anyway, I won't bore our listeners, but you do see that we are, you actually see something. You're a little bit fuzzy. That might be an internet thing. I have no idea. I don't know what's going on. But welcome to the show. We have so much to talk about. We are, you and I have known each other really since I can almost date how long we've known each other, because our kids are the age of the, so we've probably known each other about 20 years, 19 years.
I was just saying, it's like exactly 20 years, because they were 6 months.
Right.
And
so we met through our kids. Yeah, which is a wonderful thing.
It's almost 19 years and 10 months.
Exciting.
Introduced by our 6-month-olds.
Our 6-month-old introduced us, and we've never gone back. And around that time, you had, I think it was when they were that is when they were filming The Office. You had just, you were filming The Office at that time. You have since gone on to do many other things, but we're going to talk a lot about The Office today, because I think most people recognize you from The Office. I
don't want to hear about my theater work.
Unfortunately,
of which there is none.
That's
no, I don't have any theater work.
You've got things. Let's track it back. Let's talk about the origin story of how you got the job in The Office is really interesting, because a lot of my listeners, a lot of my viewers are of a generation that we refer to Generation X, which I believe you are also a member of, and they a lot
Generation
of people,
Extraordinary.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of us kind of had a similar experience where we started off doing one thing, and then we had to pivot to doing another thing. But you have one of these stories where you never in a million years would have imagined this would have happened to you. You were kind of already starting another career, and this opportunity just arose out of nowhere. So let's talk about that. So take me back to a little bit before the farmer's market experience. You had studied right at the Groundlings. Like you were an actor and doing a lot of comedy. Tell me about that era of your life, and then you got into well, anyway, I don't want to ruin the ending. So just tell us about that era of your life.
Yeah. So I went to college, studied acting, like quote real acting, in New York with a serious acting teacher, not a school or whatever, but with him, privately in a class with a bunch of people, type of thing. But did that, then came out to Los Angeles, and it was funny getting to the and had very, very, very little success. Occasionally, a small co-star part or something like that. But then, and I, thought from the time I was in high school, I was going to be James Dean or whatever, like Mr. Serious actor, brooding actor. But then I became buddies with Jennifer Coolidge. She was dating a friend of mine, and she's like, Buckley, you should be going to the Groundlings. You're funny. You could, you should go. That's where she had gone, and obviously so many others.
For those that don't know Jennifer Coolidge, I mean, how do you not?
Stifler's mom is how it used to, for years. It used to be. Now everybody's the White Lotus.
She's White Lotus, right?
But for so many years,
you were friends with her, and she told you to do the Groundlings, okay?
And so then it took me a little while, but I eventually went there, and it was fantastic. I never made it to the show, like to be in the shows, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows. But for a couple of years, I would take classes there, and it was crazy. And I might have been able to make the shows every time the opportunity came up. I was out of town for 3 months helping the same guy on small movies in Texas, but I digress. But it was wild.
As you were one to do.
As I was, well, that was fantastic in its own right. But it was wild. Like in my very first class, I mean, it was crazy. It was so I'm there, but Melissa McCarthy was there. It was like her first class, and from every single thing she ever did, I would burst out laugh. I mean, she's just like, this woman's like the funniest woman I've ever seen. Funniest person I've ever seen. And as the world would eventually discover,
later find out,
but it was crazy. She was in there. Ben, her now husband, was actually in class at the same, like literally he was in the first class I was in. Karen Murayama was our teacher, who nobody knows her name necessarily, but she's been in a million things. But then Dax Shepard also in that class.
Oh my God, Dax Shepard.
Nat Faxon, who same thing, you'd recognize him, and he won an Oscar for him.
And this was just like an introduction to improv class.
It was like, yeah, it was, and then there were half a dozen others. And then you sort of get split up into other classes as you go, but and then you're back in some class with some blah, 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 that sort of thing. We had a brief little comedy troupe, which was more of just like, a showcase sort of a thing where we put on like 2 or 3 shows. Just, you're trying to get agents. Really, all you're trying to do is get agents there. And hey, aren't we funny? Come, hi, sign us. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And then there are a number of people who, you don't know their faces, but they become writers on sitcoms or single camera shows. And, and then there's people
these improv classes, and I certainly didn't have like a celebrity, or maybe I did. I just don't remember anybody in the class, but that's amazing. And that's kind of intimidating. Just all of a sudden being like, hey, let's do an improv class with Melissa McCarthy. Like, that's intimidating.
I don't see her very much at all these days. And,
I see her occasionally. Her kid used to play basketball, with my kid. So she would come to the games. That's the only time I was. But anyway,
next time there's a game.
Yeah, I'll invite you.
She's very approachable. She's great.
She's super nice. No, she actually approached me. She goes, "Hi, I'm Melissa." I'm like, "I know who you are." But yeah, she's super friendly. All right, so you're in this incredible class, and then the office. Yeah.
No, then I same thing. I continued on like trying to act, and had a very same sort of, I call it single A baseball success. I don't even think it's single A. I think it's like, whatever there is, but some league below that. And then my wife and I, now my wife, we're married. We made this movie that we made in sort of the late 90s into 2000. And I was like, this will be it. I'll be like, I mean, honestly, it's like, hey, this, I had seen Swingers, and suddenly Vince Vaughn was like, in the next Jurassic. That's kind of what I thought.
You know what? It's a Hollywood dream. Why not? You're a handsome man.
Why not?
Yeah.
And
you're
but
funny.
At the end of that, like a couple of year ordeal, and the movie actually did all right in terms
of that.
The movie called? The Big Day.
Okay.
You can. I have a bunch of laser discs. If anybody wants, I'll send them out for free.
Okay.
I got Betamax versions. Whatever you need.
Okay.
I got the little, what are those things? As a kid, it's like not a kaleidoscope, but whatever.
Oh yeah, the little yeah. I don't remember what those are called. People can put in the
12 wonders of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
But so anyway, that was that. Like, oh man, okay, I guess I got to come up with something else. And Nancy was like, yeah, just get away from it. That's my wife, Nancy, to those who don't know. So then I just, end up at Merrill Lynch.
Because you needed a job
there. Because I needed a job, and was like, not just sort of a, hey, I'm going to work as a PA on a commercial for 2 weeks, or those sort of temporary jobs. I had a number of those, but it was like, all right, it's like a career. Oh man, I guess this might be it.
Right.
which I loved. I
But
mean,
this
I
time
actually loved it.
you're probably in your 30s or late 30s, 40s, right? Early
Yeah,
40s.
yeah, exactly, late 30s, and
So you did what
is that right?
most
Yeah,
responsible
mid 30s,
a
I guess.
responsible person would do, where it's like, okay, if the acting thing isn't quite working out, I'm having a kid, or I do have a kid, I need to actually, be responsible and make money and have insurance and that kind of thing. So you did that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I mean, I loved it. It was great,
You were a
I mean,
real corporate guy.
and luckily, and we didn't have Benny, our oldest son, yet, because that when I started there, because I was there, I had been there 4.5 years, and that's when we had gotten married, but and we had just had Benny. That's when I ran into Allison Jones, like in October of '05. So 20
Allison
years
Jones
and
is who?
3 months. Allison Jones is the greatest casting director in the history of the world. Actually, she might be.
Saved your life.
But she casts The Office, but she also casts, Freaks and Geeks and Veep, and considered arguably like, the number one comedy casting person, although she's
Now,
branched out since. But
just so
there's
people
another
understand.
person that
Yeah, just so
what?
people understand, Allison Jones, you weren't auditioning for her. This was a random, you ran into her on the street, right?
Because I had auditioned for her a number of times, when I was like
In the past, yeah.
actively trying to act, and she had hired me for 2 or 3, things. And she's from, Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts. We were buddies. She knew my younger sister, and so we had a nice, rapport and everything. And so I ran into her and the farmer's market, as you referenced, and
I always remember the farm.
and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, married, got a son. I'm at Merrill Lynch. I'm like an adult, I guess. I don't know, grown up. And so she said, "Give me your card just in case." And this was in October, and just in case something comes up. And I was like, "All right." And the other part of that also is, and this relates to acting, is my wife Nancy, has become very sought after acting coach.
Nancy, his wife, just for people who don't, and we don't have to say her last name, but she is one of the most famous and respected acting coaches in all of Los Angeles, maybe even in the world. Like she's huge. I wouldn't talk about her clients, but they're like the biggest celebrities you could ever imagine. Yeah.
And then occasionally she'll work with me if
occasionally she'll work with you, but it helps to have her
time
in your but Nancy works with A-list actors, like Oscar nominated.
I mean, Jennifer Aniston, Margot Robbie, Channing Tatum,
Margot Robbie, yep,
Ariana Grande the last few years.
When you used to live
with Jennifer Garner.
I remember one time when you used to live in our neighborhood.
Rachel McAdams, and we just went and saw Rachel McAdams' new movie, Send Help. And I haven't been to the movie in like 5 months. I realized, fantastic! It's freaking awesome.
Send Help,
so great. Yeah.
Well, let me just tell a story
Dylan
about
O'Brien and Sam Raimi directed. It's great. It's super.
Oh my
great.
God!
Anyway,
when you used to live in our neighborhood, and we don't live near each other anymore, but I do remember one time seeing a bunch of paparazzi like tearing down the street, and I realized it was because I think
it wasn't because of me.
It wasn't because of you. That was later. This is before The Office. I think it was because she was coaching Justin Bieber, and they were following her, and they followed her right to your house and were clicking away. And I was like, "What the hell is going on across the street there?" So yeah, there was always like a lot of action going on around your house when she would have these kind of, the Biebs, when the Biebs.
He was over that one time. He was interviewing acting coaches, because he had like done a couple, and they never end up. He hasn't really acted, so they haven't worked together. But I must say, I got a kick out of him coming over.
That was pretty fun. Anyway, so back to your story. So you're in the darn farmer's market. Allison Jones gives you her card, or you give her your card.
That's October. And then and I had been going to Nancy's class. She was teaching one-on-one, and had been for a number of years up to that. But then she had started a class 6 months before that. And I was like, yeah, I'll come to the class. Just like, it was, I don't know, Thursday night or Tuesday night, I forget. And I was like, it's our date night. I'll be in class. And I always joke, because when she first started it, so this was April, 6 months before I bumped into Allison. When she first started the class, it was tiny, and it was you know, it was like 6 women, a young Channing Tatum, and me. So I was never like the most popular scene partner. No. How about the scene with the young, the young stud over there instead of the teacher's husband?
Right.
Who's gonna like
It's like a
sell me
nightmare. You could have
insurance?
Channing Tatum, but you get the teacher's husband. Yeah.
I joke about that, but there was one other guy in class. He was also a young, handsome guy, so
I'm sure
I was still not popular. It's funnier with just me and Channing, who couldn't be a lovelier guy, by the way. But so in
Lovely man.
October, I run into Allison, give her the, you know, she gets my card, and then she calls me. And this is one of the things that makes her so phenomenal, what she does. 4 months later in January, and says, Buckley, you should come audition for this part. He's the CFO. It's one day. It's a couple of scenes with Steve. And this was the 2nd season of The Office. And it wasn't like it had, I mean, it was on its way. It's on the rise.
Yeah, but it wasn't really known yet. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. And so luckily I get to work with Nancy, and I go in and I audition, and I mean, and it's funny because the guy Chip Eston, who's a very funny guy, who's ended up hiring him to play Josh Porter. For any like real Office fans, you know, he ran the Stanford branch. He was in there auditioning also, and I'm like, and I had worked with him once before, and he was on that Whose Line Is It Anyway, and he's on a bunch of stuff, and he's very funny. And
was he auditioning for the same part?
Same part, and then I'm like, you know.
Damn it.
Okay. All right. Damn it. And then there's 6 other guys too, who like, you know, could have been any one of them. And we all kind of look the same, you know, we're all, and luckily they hired him for the Josh Porter part. And
it's
then
so funny how it's like, well, he just got hired for the Stanford branch. So it's like in real life, right? He just got hired to be the Stanford branch, and you got hired to be the New York branch, corporate. But
that was it. It was like, you know, the day it was 2 scenes, and the day I filmed, and they liked that I was, you know, some kind of a financial guy, and
they liked that you were actually a guy. Now, what was that? Do you remember that scene with Steve? Was that a little bit intimidating to be doing a scene with Steve Carell? I mean, you've been doing this a long time, so it wasn't like,
but oh my goodness, intimidating. Yeah, definitely. However, I stuck to my, I mean, it's crazy, you know, as crazy as it is, and as actory as it is, and it's that whole thing that like you read in the books and all that stuff. I like stuck to my preparation, what I was doing in the scene, what I wanted in the scene, you know, what my relationships were, etc. All that actor stuff. And luckily, also, I mean, Steve couldn't be a lovelier guy, and same with Melora, but Greg Daniels directed that episode, which was great, because he has such an easy way about him, and he's like, all right, hey,
Greg Daniels is the guy who created the show, the US version of the show, also Community, Parks and Recreation.
And here's a funny little tidbit: when I actually auditioned, so it was Allison, who I read with, and then the only other person in the room, ironically, ended up being Mose Schrute, which is Michael Shore, the other sort of head writer for the first, you know, number of years. He came on in the 2nd season, I think, and was head writer for.
So he played
Greg
Schrute's father, or like his brother, or
cousin, his cousin, odd, crazy cousin.
And
I
remember that character, hilarious.
And then he went on to create Parks and Rec, and so he's created like 4 other huge hit shows. But no, having Greg direct that was super helpful. Also,
well, because he saw you, so then he's
like, this guy, he might be able to do something. But you know, they didn't. It's not like they called me the next week. They called me exactly a year later to do what was then my 2nd episode.
But then you became. When did you know that you were going to become a reoccurring character?
So that was the first episode. That a year later they call, and I think I did something on the phone. But then I had a really big episode so this is towards the end of the 3rd season, where I have a party at my house.
Mm-hmm.
Krasinski's there, Steve's there, Melora, Rashida. Like, it was a whole, like, a lot of the people. I was on the set for like 3 days, because big party scenes and all that. And so that was super cool. And then at the end of that week, they're like, yeah, we're gonna have you're doing another one in a couple of weeks. Like, oh man, this was, and that was the very final episode of season 3 where I interview a number of the folks from Scranton. I end up hiring BJ Novak, the temp as they call him, Ryan, to come work in corporate. That was when I thought, oh man, I think I'm gonna be on this show.
Yeah.
Like, not all the time, but maybe at least a few times a year. That'd be cool. Then that next season started. There was the writer's strike of 08 when I think it was 08, maybe 07. I think 08. Anyway, when that writer's strike ended, that's when it was crazy. Out of nowhere, they started using me all the time. I did like 12 of episodes that next season.
So
that was when I realized.
Yeah. And that's great. Obviously, they liked what you were doing in your character a lot, to keep bringing you back. Did you ever, I mean, the hardest thing, I mean, there's a lot of hard things about playing that character, but is it you always have to be the adult and the straight guy in the room when, amongst the chaos? Like you're always the kind of like, the even hand. You're playing the straight man. And did you ever, I know you're a professional, but did you ever sometimes break character? Like, did you, or just start laughing? Like, you see those blooper scenes where people just can't hold it in, but like, especially when Steve Carell is saying ridiculous things to you that are insane. Could that get tricky for you?
Oh, I would constantly break out laughing. I mean, I don't think there was a scene where I didn't. And often it would happen two or three takes. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Come on, Buckley. I'm like,
Did they get mad at you? Did they get a little bit mad at you?
Just a financial advisor. Oh yeah. I mean, because that was the thing, Steve, and this is something they learn at Second City. Steve would every take was different. It's all the same words, but he would just do it in a different, sometimes drastically different, sometimes only slightly different. But I believe that's a Second City thing that they learn, where like you can't rely on whatever worked the last time. You always have to come up with something
a little
new.
bit different. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, which made it so fun. B, your attention has to be. You can't not be totally focused because you don't know what he's going to do. Which makes it that much more fun. That's why one of the
that's interesting. So how much of it was like, obviously you're following a script, but how much of it was improv? Because if he's going to do things differently, you have to sort of kind of like react to what he's doing.
That part of it is always, every take is you don't know exactly where it's going to go.
Right.
The stuff that I always did in this.
God, see, that's why we don't work with. And now that froze the screen. That just ruined my entire interview. Just one stupid call that he got and now he's gone. David Wallace is now gone from the screen. Well, I think we'll take this time to take some of your questions, since I have no idea where he went. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat. I am speaking now to the David Wallace, his real name is Andy Buckley, who he played Steve Carell's boss on The Office for I don't know how many, gosh knows how many seasons, and then he went on to be in a bunch of movies, including The Bridesmaids and Wise Guys, and a bunch of television shows. And I know him because our kids were friends from the time they were 6 months old. They're both 20 now. We met. We were strolling our kids down the street, and I saw some guy with a kid that was around my age and said like, "Hey, dude," and he said, "Hey, dude," and then it turned out he would end up being a friend, this is why you always say hello to everybody you see. David Wallace, you have disappeared, but you're going to be coming back. This is fun. This is like me doing my own show all of a sudden. Like I have to like string it along. We were just talking about improv. Now I have to do my own improv. I promise that Andy, aka David Wallace, will come back. I was thinking about this show actually. There's a number of reasons I want to have Andy on. A, because I think he's such a great origin story about how he got the show, and he's a funny dude. But also because the whole concept of The Office, I was thinking about it just like from a Gen X perspective. So Andy is obviously a Gen Xer. Steve Carell is a Gen Xer. It seems to be that show is a lot about Gen Xers managing millennials. For a show that became very popular with Gen Z. So it seems to span all generations. Like that show I just read is the third most popular show in on Netflix. It's the most streamed show on Netflix, and that's like no small thing. Look who's calling me. It's Andy. Let's see what he says. Andy, you're on live. What's up? What can I do for you?
First time caller from Des Moines.
Wait, are you going to join? Because we're.
I think I have joined. I just don't. I see myself on screen.
Okay, let me fix that, and we'll come back. Welcome to live podcasting, everybody. Here we go. Oh, there you are. Okay, terrific.
Hey, there we go. Sorry about that. That was Benny.
Oh, that's great. See, it all worked. Benny's your son. So I was just telling him your story, and I was actually talking, and we was going to talk about this later because I wanted you to take us through the whole Office thing. But I was saying how it's interesting how The Office is a show about Gen Xers. Well, it is not really what it's about, but I noticed that it is people who are in charge, like Gen X, like you and Steve, managing millennials like Jim and Pam and Dwight. But yet the show is incredibly popular with Gen Zers, which is our kids. I'm curious, you used to tell me that people would stop you all the time, like kids, because they watch the show because it's had its it was obviously really popular on NBC when it was on live, but then it came back on Netflix and it was kind of discovered by a whole new generation. Did that kind of blow you away? Like at one time, everybody recognized you just because the show was popular, at that time. And then like the show went away and then it came back and suddenly everybody recognized you again.
It was, it's great, and it's, as I call it, the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, it's crazy. I just did one of those AT&T ads with they've been using Office people the last couple of years, and they're slowly working their way down the ladder. So I got the call, and
they're like, the Wallace, really?
Jan,
I was on a college tour of NYU, and Jan, I noticed, was on with the tour with my. I almost wanted to go up to her and say, I know David Wallace.
There you go. But, he fired me because
she fired you. I didn't think it was going to be a good relationship. She turned out to be kind of a well-known actress. There's a viral clip circulating of her on Different Strokes. Is that Different Strokes? Yeah, with Dancing with Willis. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was like one of those child actresses.
Yeah, she was.
And then and I don't know if she was on a show or a big show for a while.
Yeah, she played.
But yeah, she's great. I mean, she can do all that. She's like a what do they call it? A torch song singer. She'll play like the jazz, big jazz, like the one at like the top of the Mark or something like that in New York. She'll go in and do an hour,
she's like multi-talented. Yeah, multi-talented.
Do all that.
Well, enough about Jan. We'll have her on the next show.
There we go.
I should probably know her real name, but anyway, we're just going to call her Jan from
Melora. Yeah, but yeah,
Melora.
She's great and Transparent too. That's Transparent.
Oh yeah, she's on Transparent. She's awesome. I used to have a little bit of a crush on her, to be honest with you. And so did Steve Carell, or his character. Well, it was always a disaster. But anyway, so you would sometimes break character because it was so funny. Do you have? I mean, what was it like just showing up on that set? It must have just been, especially when the show started to get more well known. It was like, it was beyond. I actually, just side note here, I actually visited the set of The Office the first year. I was writing a story for Stuff magazine about The Office, and it was before your time, because you came on the second season, and I just remember like walking on and just being like, wow, it's all here. Like this is, I'm actually in The Office, and that was really cool because it really just looked like an office. But what was it like knowing that you're on this huge show, and I don't know, like take us behind the scenes, but it was like being on that set.
It was great. It's like,
it sucks. It was terrible.
I was a guy working at Merrill Lynch, which again, I loved. However, it's a little more fun when you're kind of hanging around a hit TV show.
So remember, you did not quit your day job. Like you stayed at Merrill Lynch because this was not a consistent gig for you.
Exactly. Yeah. That was and to the yes, I stayed there through the whole run of the show, and it was around that time I had gotten on a teen drama when he's Pretty Little Liar type shows. It was a sister show to that. Which I always say, like, it was like Desperate Housewives for teenage girls. It was great. It was called The Line Game. It was fantastic. Sadly, after 3 years they canned it, but it was.
I remember that.
Fun
I remember
lasted.
this is all coming back.
And that was in Austin, so I would commute and our second guy, Xander, had been born. So I was commuting kind of each week to come home and spend a couple of days with him. But, and then at the end of that ended around the same time as The Office. And for some reason, I figured that was a good time to leave Merrill Lynch. No, when both shows were over.
Why did you do that? Why did you leave?
No, it was sort of planned. It was my partners had been doing all the work for like a couple of years, and
they're probably so sick of you. They're like,
their percentage of our work of the business itself was like growing, and mine was getting smaller. Like, and I joked that like compliance was like, Buckley, come on, you're like a lawsuit waiting to happen. Guys, their advisor is done where? He's doing what?
Right. But that probably made you pretty popular with your clients, though, that you were on The Office. How much?
A few of them, I wouldn't mention it, but definitely with a few. But again, nobody wants to know their money is being sort of handled, or for like some guy who's like an actor.
Yeah, but that's true.
But it was to answer your question, it was the greatest. It was the greatest getting it. Like I mean, suddenly I'm walking down the street and like hey, you're the guy from The Office. Like,
right.
I mean, it's an incredibly cool feeling. But as you said, the set, the set was just a phenomenally fun environment. I mean, you're just surrounded by funny people, and you're a part of it. Even though I always sort of felt like I was the cousin, who would come to visit every once in a while, but not really.
Yeah, was that hard to not be part of the family? I mean, I'm sure they were welcoming, but was it a little bit cliquish?
No, not cliquish. Incredibly welcoming. And I mean, I certainly wouldn't say it was hard. I mean, it would have been great to be on the show every week.
Come on, Greg.
All kinds of standpoints. Yeah, come on, Greg. But no, it was fantastic. And it's funny, I know the first season, and I don't know if they continued this in the second season, they would have like I'll call them the bullpen people, Kevin and Angela and Stanley and Phyllis, and like everybody, Oscar, come in and just like a half an hour early and just sit at their desk, do some work, the computers work, just to give everyone that literally like that physical feel of being in an office, and you're there, and you're
really
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So it really felt like
so you had the real feel of it. Yeah. And maybe they stopped that the second year, but I don't know. But they really wanted people to have that feel.
I remember when I went and visited, and I was interviewing. First of all, Steve Carell, like you talk about breaking character, he made me laugh so hard that I actually, could I say this publicly? I actually peed a tiny bit in my pants. I mean, it was so funny what he did. I can't even. I wish I had it, because I used to have it on a micro interview thing, and I played it for my wife, and we would just laugh, and we would used to listen to it over and over again, because I had asked him for fashion advice, and he did it in character, and it was hilarious. And I don't even want to redo it, because it was the way he did it was hilarious. And then also Jim Krasinski, I asked him a fashion tip that he would like to bring back, and I never forget his answer. He said visors. He felt that visors needed to come back, and he wanted to bring visors back into the fashion flow, which I thought was pretty funny. But anyway, it's not as funny when I say it somehow. But anyway, so it was a wonderful place. It had a really good vibe. It was funny because it was supposed to be in Scranton, but it was actually where it was like in a office park.
It's out, off of Satakoy at the Chandler Valley Studios, a couple of two sound stages, but not on a lot or anything. It's actually interesting. Like it's an industrial street. You go down, there's like a big electrical supply shop, there's a tire shop.
It could be like any small town, like kind of like middle America. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
And the outdoor, the parking lot and the outside of the building is actually the outside of the building. The inside, like with the elevator and all that, that's where you see where Hank set up shop for a while. Hank, the security guard, all that was there. And one of the buildings, it was the warehouse, and then the second floor was all the writers' offices, and then the other soundstage, it was the big main office,
right?
And then whatever else they would they would set up corporate in there. If need be, they'd build it and then, take it down because it was so infrequent.
Do you know, so did you use your professional life to inspire your character?
That's the thing that's funny is it's a good thing I ended up at Merrill Lynch, and was there because I think subconsciously, yes, in the sense that like the guy that ran my office is a guy named Dick Valentine. He's in from Texas for about 7 or 8 years here in LA. He's back in Texas now. He's the guy that hired me there. And then the guy was sort of my main mentor, definitely. And I would bring him in if there was a potential big client. I was like, I don't know what to tell this person. They got a lot of money. Please come help me. Guy named Craig Bennell, who's an LA guy here in LA. Shout out to Valentine and Bennell. They I think subconsciously, and I tell them, these guys, that I base the character on, not consciously, but I think subconsciously on both of them, because they're like super great guys. Just like I always say, win-win guys. They want the client to win. They want, us to win, the company to win. They're family guys, kids, etc. Grown kids now at this point. And they're just, and I was sort of the Michael Scott in that equation. They were the ones who like knew what was going on. And I was like, hey, what do I do in this situation?
Right.
Really. And so luckily I knew those guys, and I had, something to base Wallace on.
Yeah, it's nice to have your life example. So so you were inspired by them. So
plus it keeps you grounded. Just like that thing when you're acting, like they treat you like you're the greatest. They get to a set. Hey, what can we get you? What can we do for you? All that stuff, and you can sort of get, kidded into or lulled into the idea that you're actually more important than you truly are, because you're.
Well, Hollywood has that. I mean, I think that's the allure for so many people, is that it does have this currency that when you're actually working, and that's the thing, is so few times are you actually working? Is there, that feeling of like real importance and accelerated importance? I think even when you're hanging around with somebody who's a celebrity, sometimes when you go and like out to dinner with them or something, like I used to interview celebrities for my job, and I used to like take them to lunch and stuff, and just like there's something like you kind of almost feed off the I don't know, like the energy that's coming from them, because they get treated a certain way in restaurants, and everybody's like looks at you in a certain way because you're near them, and like who are you if you're next to this celebrity? There's definitely something that's very seductive. I mean, I can see why it destroys people. It's not reality.
It's funny, when I was younger, I and before I had any success with it, I sort of got a kick out of that, and then you realize you're just part of the team. Like, you get to be sort of, more known, but, you're the writer, the grip, the camera guy, the sound guy, everybody, the makeup, everybody, it's all one giant team. And,
right. You realize
there
that
to
you're
do
a good person, but I think there are some people that may not be as grounded as you that might think, well, it's all me. Without me, this wouldn't even be happening, whatever.
Yeah.
That's the dark side of it.
Most of the big people, I mean, not most of, pretty much every big person I've worked with is like, they know they're there and it's a job, and they might be the Tom Brady,
right,
or the Drake May. We're going to the Super Bowl, hopefully.
By the way, I can't even, it's sickening. It's sickening to me that your team, how did this happen? Sorry, I'm not a huge, you definitely are going to the Super Bowl. I'm not a huge New England Patriots fan. So the fact that you guys suddenly got this miraculous quarterback, which the Jets should have gotten, who knows how did that happen? But anyway, it's almost insufferable. But back to the office. I don't know. Shout out to my.
But the Merrill Lynch thing kept me very grounded, in the sense of like I would go back and I'm there, and like you're taking grief from a client because you screwed something up or you forgot to do something. You're like, yes, let me get that out to like you're.
That was probably a blessing in disguise, even though I'm sure you wished that every day that you would get that call saying, hey, you're going to be a regular on the show.
Right.
That would have changed your life fairly radically. It's so interesting that the way you had this, you were part of this huge thing, but you weren't fully in it. So you were kind of like playing both sides of it. That's an interesting situation to find yourself. And not a lot of actors probably find themselves in it. You're either on the show or you're not, but you're not like half on, it's like, I don't know. It's interesting.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So this show has tremendous success. Tell us, for those who, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched The Office, don't listen to this next part of this interview. But what ends up befalling David Wallace, his character? Did
Well,
it surprise? Yeah. Like,
well,
how
that
does
was
he?
the fun. That was crazy when for me personally, it was like, wait a second, I'm out. They're getting rid of me.
They
Like,
killed me. They run me out.
Companies being bought, and I literally say, well, I'm gonna be fired. And then after that, that was I see it at the table read the week before we film it, and I go up to Paul Lieberstein, who was the head writer at the time, and who was Toby on the show, and
so many of the writers are on the show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, Paul, am I out? And he's like, yeah, you're gonna be gone for a while. We're gonna figure out a way to bring you back at some point, but for now, I'm like, no.
Don't
And
do that.
luckily, I was doing that show in Texas at the time, so I was like, all right, the kids can still eat.
Yeah.
And then they ultimately did bring me back, which was great for the last part of the second to last season, and then the last season.
And so what ended up happening to you, for those who don't know? You end up,
I buy the company back. I buy the company back at the end of the second to last season with my suck it money, the vacuum for teenagers that I came up with.
Right. So you had a side hustle, which is very Gen X. You came up with you lost your job, and then you came up with a side hustle, and you created this vacuum cleaner called the Suck It, which basically it sucks up kids' toys toys to get lost.
And that was the noise in it. And and I mean, it's just an insanely crazy thing. And then I sell the patent to the Department of Defense and make $20 million, and so then I'm able to buy the company. So then the last season, I'm technically the owner of Dunder Mifflin, which is how the show ends. I mean, as it ends, I'm not that this is a part of it, but I'm technically the owner.
Right.
And that's interesting for the paper. That's right. So the I can't remember that I guess it's technically you could say a spinoff. So a company comes in. I have to rewatch that. I've only seen a few episodes. I actually like it a lot. That reminds me to get back to it.
You're talking about the paper here, which is the
yes. I'm sorry. The spinoff, like that, whether it's a spinoff or not, because Oscar's on it, and it's you have it's right. The beginning is a company has, you see at the beginning of the show, the company's come in and bought Dunder Mifflin.
Yeah.
And moved things over, and it's sort of got scooped up into this big corporation, and operations moved to Toledo, which is where that show takes place. And Oscar went with the move to sort of give you the first 5 minutes of the show, but that explains it. But so technically, I guess they would have bought it from me if you go by that. So
you know what, they should probably have you do a sort of I don't. We'll have
there
to
we go.
You on.
There we go. I'll send Greg an email.
So your career didn't end with The Office, obviously, and you were able. You mentioned that you left Merrill Lynch, so eventually you just decided that you could become an actor full time, and that's what you're doing now, with the help of your very successful wife, who's an acting coach. But it's nice you both are. But tell me what you had that show. I was mentioning when you got cut off. I was mentioning that you were in Bridesmaids, not a bad movie. You were in The Wise Guys, right? I remember that.
The other guys,
not the Wise Guys, the other guys, which is I'm glad you're here to fact check me. And then you were in a bunch of other things. You're that guy where everybody's like, I know that guy. Like, I totally know that
I specialize in like 30-second to 2-minute parts in movies. But no,
that's not totally true, because
well, on TV, I've gotten super lucky. And certainly like in Jurassic World and the Heat and Bombshell, the thing with Nicole Kidman and Charlize Theron and Margot Robbie and stuff. But I got super lucky on TV shows. There was the teen drama, and then there was a fantastically funny show called Odd Mom Out that skewered the Upper East Side of New York, and a woman named Jill Cargman created that. was the main head writer, and then also was the star of it, and I was her, nice guy husband.
And that was that was a big part. That was like a major part.
That was I actually made the poster of the show on all the buses and billboards and everything during the second season, which was really cool, which was really fun. It's like, oh man, that's cool. It's a fun little thing for a couple of months. And that ran 3 seasons. Then there was I got to do a show, and I was on that show Scorpion for like, I don't know, and Shameless. I did like 8 or 9 of each one of those things. Scorpion was a CBS thing. Shameless is the Showtime thing. But then there was one in the super fun show. It was an HBO comedy called Avenue 5 from the guy that did Veep. And we filmed that in London, and which was great, for 5 months the year before COVID, and then the year after COVID for the second season, another 5 months. And that's kind of the funny thing. That's when the show The Office like really took off, in the sense that in London, the first season, every 2 weeks, someone, oh, hey, you're the guy from the, whatever.
Like in the streets of London. Oi!
Exactly.
Now that's interesting, because there's the British Office, which for those of you who might not be aware, that was the original.
The original. Yeah.
Today's Office. Yeah.
And then the second season, which was the year after COVID, 3-4 times a week, somebody would say something. I don't want to say every day, but it went from once every.
What do you think it is about that show that makes it so popular? I mean, obviously, look, it's really funny. It has a great cast, really great characters. But I mean, there's a lot of shows, that are classics from that era, or even like the 90s. But there's only a few that have really like penetrated, like still, are funny today, or still are talked about today. And not beyond that, like our kids like them, which is, can you imagine us liking a show? I mean, back
a show that your parents like,
yeah, like the show your parents like, that's like unheard of. That's like me liking, I don't know, Gidget. I don't really know what it would be like me liking, but like
actually liking,
me liking Lawrence Welk show. So what do you think it is about that show? Have you thought about that ever?
I've taken a lot of polls, and everybody seems to say it's the David Wallace character. No, no, I think
that's the glue.
That's the glue. No, I think it's the writing. Starting with the writing, definitely. But then B, I think it's this, Michael Scott heart, as like for all the lousy politically incorrect things he says and does and all that stuff and all the, lunacy. He's
like a pre-woke character. Now I think about it. He's like the most anti-woke.
He just has like this big, beautiful, heart, leads with his heart, and you can't help but love the guy, even though he's crazy. And so I think that, and then I think that's the sort of number one thing, the writing and that, the 1 and 2. And then, as you said, there's so many great characters, so many funny situations. You have a lot of different people you can really relate to, and then like quite a bit or love. I love that character,
Yeah. I mean, even when you were
it's what do they say? It's comfort food. It's comfort food TV.
It's extremely comforting, and you really feel like you are part of that office and know the characters. And obviously everybody knows some sort of variation of a character on that show, right? Like everybody, they're all, exaggerated, but there's something, with the exception maybe of Dwight Schrute. I'm not sure I've ever met anybody quite like Dwight Schrute, but I know people like Pam. I know people like you on the show. I know, Toby is like totally a familiar character. He's just annoying, just go away. Yeah. Phyllis.
And it's funny. I think there are people like Dwight out there. If we think we might even actually know.
I'm sure there are. They're probably like conspiracy theorists, like, that kind of a guy.
It's so funny. He's like one of the all-time great TV characters. Well done, Rain. And it's funny, he's the sweet, lovely guy, very much unlike obviously Dwight. But people wouldn't necessarily be like Dwight, but he's shockingly sweet. Like, wait a second, you're Dwight. You're not supposed to be this nice.
Yeah, you're supposed to be kind of like, my daughter actually went as Dwight. Excuse me.
That's right. I've seen that.
Halloween, yeah. I think I might have sent that to you. I want to ask you about, people might not be aware of this, but you still have, kind of cash in a little bit on that character. Like you'll go and speak at corporate events as David Wallace, right? Like you've made a little bit of an industry out of that character.
And why would I not, sir?
I mean, I'm not saying there's
yeah.
anything wrong with it. I would do exactly
No,
the
I
same
know.
thing.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's I technically don't do it as him.
Because that's IP probably
I guess
issues.
I'm sure I couldn't or whatever, but I mean it's a lot of stories, whether it's about, and I combine the corporate world that I was in with the show, and then other shows, it's stories of whether it's about Steve or Julia Louis Dreyfus. I did some episodes of Veep with her, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've done a show with him the last couple of years, which was great. Or Hugh Laurie, he was the main guy on Avenue 5.
But don't you sometimes show up at these events with like Dunder Mifflin shirts and sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, you gotta. I don't quite have the t-shirt gun or whatever those things are at ball games, but you got to show up with your swag. Dozen coffee mugs and some t-shirts and some Dunder Mifflin socks.
So whoever. You're like a celebrity, and didn't you even go to Scranton, or I don't know? Remember you telling me some story about didn't you go to some place that was near the actual?
Yeah, it's crazy. I've been to Scranton like 15 times. It's I have two great friends there, Tim Holmes, Michelle Dempsey. Yeah,
shout out
the Holmes and Dempsey family. They what was it? The first time they had a big, and this is another, you never know where good fortune comes. And you just sort of have to be ready. And if you see an opportunity, and I had done just a couple of episodes, and it was the end of the third season, into the fourth. It was actually in the middle of the fourth season of the show. And I had actually called the Merrill Lynch office in Scranton to see if I could somehow generate business there, combining it like, hey, let's get I'm the guy from the show, and so the person I talked to in the office, it was kind of, his name is Roland Greco, super nice guy. Shout out to Roland. I was like, yeah, I'm actually, watch The Office, right? And he's like, yeah, of course, it's our favorite show here in Scranton. I said, well, I'm the guy that plays Wallace. And he's like, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. I explained to him, and then he said, hey, they're having a convention here, in a month. You should come be a part of it. I know the guy putting it on. Let me get you in touch with him. And all that happened. And so I got to be a part of it. And the great thing about that was that, like all the writers were there, a bunch of the cast, not everybody. So I got to be around everybody, like much more than I, over a 3-day period than I had been. And I think that maybe put in their minds, because right after that, when the writer's strike came back, that they used me a bunch. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I sort of think it might be true that they thought, hey, maybe we should start using this guy more. He seems pleasant, or whatever.
Right. It's a good example of
But yeah, and then since then, but since then I go every year, to Scranton. There's either like an event, or if I'm going to be in that area, I'll just swing in and say hi to, Tim, and I'll stay at, Tim's house.
So
my buddy.
When you do
Tim.
These corporate speaking engagements, are you just sort of, how do you position yourself? Like, what do you speak about?
It's, primarily talking, and it's not, I'm not like a
regular,
someone, no, but with like a horrible physical ailment, and I've done great things, or I saw one guy who was, he was blind, and he had climbed Mount Everest. And I mean that, the guy, I'm not
right.
that. I got lucky.
Serious.
I got on got on a hit show and didn't get fired. But what I speak about is primarily like success in acting, is no different, pretty much than anything else. I mean, definitely have to get lucky, but the ones that succeed, they're the hardest workers. They're the most prepared. They're the easiest to work with. They're communicative. When they get in the power position, they're great leaders. If they want to stay there, you're always servicing someone. In this case, the actor serves the writer. So you sort of check in your ego at the door. and you know, you're always prospecting, you're always looking for your next job. I mean, it's very similar to many businesses. Not that if you do all those things, you're guaranteed success, but
It
everyone
helps.
I know that
Yeah,
has been
and just
successful
being
has done all those things.
yeah, and just being, you know, not knowing your life might not take a linear path. Like, you know, the way you probably thought your life would play, you know, when you were in your 20s, and the way it ended up playing out is very different. But it was you kind of gave yourself you know, there was some luck involved, but then you put yourself in the good, you know, in the right places. You made, you know, good decisions. And I think, you know, for a lot of people watching this, and certainly for myself, like it's a good lesson for me, because I'm always thinking it's gonna go this way. Like I have a whole plan and everything. And the things in life tend to like happen in random ways that you don't see coming. And like, you know, somebody running into you at a farmer's market and saying, you know, you might be good for this job, the job on this show that's not even on the air yet, you know, whatever. It's like, and you
Right.
were just willing to kind of take that gamble. And yeah, so it's like, if you lose a job, you can't, I tell my friends, because so many of my friends are losing jobs now, like it's not necessarily what you think it's going to be. Like you have this scenario that you make it in your head, and a fantasy, a dark fantasy usually, and it doesn't really play out usually the way you think it's going to. And I think there's something kind of like nice to knowing that. And your story is great in that way, is that it just, nothing went the way you expected it to go.
No,
right.
and it's incredibly lucky.
Yeah,
You know,
and
which
there is
one
luck.
it's like, oh yeah, that's a huge, you know, that's a
But,
huge
you know,
part
I
of
mean,
it.
you're underselling yourself a little bit, because I think there's luck. But what's that phrase? And I'm sure somebody will say in the comments, you know, luck
Yeah,
is success
preparation
is luck,
and
preparation. Yeah,
preparation and opportunity. Preparation and luck creates success is created
or
when
success.
preparation meets opportunity. That's what it says. Like
Yes,
success is created when preparation meets opportunity. If you're
right,
ready when the time comes.
right. I think we should show luck in there too. Should be in that equation, because there is luck, but you only sort of, you're not going to even notice the luck if you're not prepared. You know, when it comes to you, you might not even notice that that's an opportunity that you could have taken advantage of. I know this is super fascinating. What are you up to these days? Like what are we looking for with Wallace? Not Wallace, with Andy stuff.
You know, I mean, so they canceled this show that I had done with
Damn them.
a bunch of people, with Arnold and a bunch of people, after a couple of years, Fubar for Netflix, which was a blast, and he couldn't have been a better guy. So they finished that. I just did a couple of, you know, small parts in some independent movies that should be sweet little movies. You never know where they go. And then it's fun. One had the great Faye Dunaway in it, which was like a kick. Like, holy smokes, it's freaking, that's Faye Dunaway. And we had
she's
great.
a legend.
Yeah. It was one like 2-day scene with her.
My dad did the music to Postman Always Rings Twice, which is a Faye Dunaway classic from her golden era. Whenever, yeah.
No, but so, you know, then you're on I did a couple of these, you know, Super Bowl commercials just a couple of weeks ago that or one's a Super Bowl one, one's a March Madness one.
Okay.
The AT&T
one. Are you
I
cast as a certain type of? Are you usually frequently cast as a certain type? Like, do you have a type?
It's it's
what's your type? Like, who are you? Like, is it
you
Wallace?
know, I'm always the nice guy boss, the nice guy husband. You know, very rarely is it much different than that. You know,
you're always you don't play the evil. You very rarely get cast as sort of the evil, wicked, right? Like you're usually the guy. Yeah.
Which I think I think it's very few people who aren't generally playing the same type of person, you know, and those are the Daniel Day-Lewis's and the Christian Bales and the Sean Penn, right. You know, it's like a handful of people, and then and then you know, but then you have like a Bob Odenkirk or Hugh Laurie. Those two like perfect examples of guys who were comedians and then were able to branch off and do a bunch of serious stuff. People don't know that Hugh Laurie was a big comedian in England before House. Same with Adam Sandler. You know, now how he's doing a lot of these serious movies, which is great.
Right.
You know, Bill Murray did that.
Right. So you probably liked it. I mean, every actor would like to challenge themselves, right, and do something a little more, you know, different than what they normally do.
Yeah, and you occasionally get to audition for those things, and one of these days I'll get hired for it. Maybe.
So what's your take on, not to end on a sour note here, but what's your take on the business right now? So, we're here in Hollywood. It's definitely a different world than it was even back when you met Allison at the farmer's market. There's probably less opportunities, right? There's not as much work. Or are you not finding it to be that much different? Maybe for somebody
well, it's interesting because I mean I've been very lucky to have been like basically on a show.
Always
12 or 13 of the last 15, 16. Like there's only been like 2 years. One of those was a strike year. It was a COVID year, strike year, and then there was 1 year, like 12 years ago. I was like, crap, I gotta get on a show. We just bought this house. So I've been incredibly lucky in that way. But yeah, I guess it's not and I guess I've noticed it this year. Yeah, it's definitely not they don't seem to be making as many things. But the big thing I noticed is that so many things film out of town. Whether part of them or not, but like the jobs I've had, like where I was a regular on the show, that one was in Toronto, one was in London, one was in New York, one was in Austin.
Never in Los Angeles. It'd be nice if it was just down the street, but
I mean, they certainly film shows here. They just don't get hired for those.
Well, no, but
the other thing I noticed is yeah. So I mean, there's that crazy thing that's floating around. I saw on Instagram, Rob Lowe talking about how I honestly, I think it's called I don't know the name of it, but there's a game show he does that they film in Ireland because it's literally like cheaper to fly 100 people over to Ireland.
Yeah, this
to
is
film it than it is to
apparently the governor
film here
just
in
signed
Los.
the governor just signed some legislation. It's trying to bring production back to LA.
Which hopefully helps. And
yeah,
and I don't know if a lot of it was like they had product built up pre-strike. They filmed a bunch of stuff and they had it in the can, so to speak, and so they didn't they didn't need to film as much in 2024 and 25. I don't know. So, and then you keep hearing, it's going to turn around. It's going to turn around. Everything's cyclical. I mean, here's a super interesting thing. So there's a company, and I know a lot of, as I understand it, a lot of company, like not TV or movie companies, but like brands, like clothing companies, or this is an accounting software company I'm about to talk about. They're making their own content. So it's a company called Ramp. It's big accounting software company, huge company. And they do the in-house accounting, and they have the Ramp card. So you just use it and everything gets itemized, for your big business. Like Amazon, I think, is one of their customers, and companies at that level, obviously huge companies. But they did this thing that they included me in where Brian Baumgartner, Kevin from The Office, like did a whole day inside the glass box in New York, like Severance did. That show Severance did it in Grand Central a couple of years ago. So they did that with him, and the whole pitch and tagline is, I'm the CFO now, Kevin, who was like the worst accountant, not the sharpest guy in town. Their product is so great that even Kevin could be your CFO. That's how great our product is. And so because I was the CFO, they included me in the thing. At Brian's suggestion, which was, he said, you got to include Buckley, which was great.
That was
but
nice.
they were continuing that. So there was a whole little storyline with that back in like October when they did that. And then one of the Super Bowl commercial is that, and there's a whole social media thing leading up to that. And I think they have plans for perhaps more stuff in the future. But I think, and that's just sort of an interesting thing. I think like, brands, if you will, are going to start to try and make their own. It seems like that's what's going to happen, content, and maybe that translates and becomes, I don't know, a show, or maybe just shows on YouTube. I don't know.
And it's nice that they're always going to pick the IP that they know is a sure thing, and The Office is like, a sure thing content, and it's nice that The Office, they must have to sign, like legally, right? They have to sign off on anything whenever you're going to appear as your character. right? They
Well,
have
that's
to,
the thing.
you
We
don't
don't
own your
appear as our character. It's Andy
Yeah.
and Brian.
Okay, you
It's,
do it as
yeah. And so like there's no, it's like, wait a second, I was the guy that was the CFO. I played the CFO. So
right.
it's as me, Andy.
But you can't,
but
so you can't say, yeah. But they're okay with even if it's sort of similar, I guess, to the real
but
show, making reference
right.
to it. Yeah.
But you
Okay.
have, but yeah, their legal guys are always like, no, you can't say Wallace. No, you can't say, Kevin. You can't do this. You can't do that. And Brian is very aware of that also.
Right.
I'm a tiny part of his is a much bigger. He's the main show, and I'm 10% of it.
I also noticed you're on Cameo.
Why not, baby?
Why not? Right?
Yes. And it's funny. Speaking of King of Cameo, Brian's like the King of Cameo.
Is he?
And he was doing it a couple of years before COVID. I didn't really realize what it was until
COVID was when, it really picked up.
That's when
Cameo,
it really took
those
off.
who are not watching, or when you can pay cameo.com, where you can pay actors to appear in like birthday cards and do things for you, right? So is that a little bit of a revenue stream for you? Like, do you get?
It was great during COVID, and it's slowed down considerably because people can go out now. People are buying actual presents to bring to a birthday party, and they see each other, and there's all of that. But I still make them, and I put real extra effort into them. I'll message the people, tell me more about this person, blah blah blah, and whatever. Try and give them their money's worth. And then you make them for companies also, like their business, semi branding sort of things too. Like, but no, it's great. It's great. But I think it's as it would have, the business itself slowed down because of COVID. But it's really funny. Like the people that are on there, it's crazy. So I'm like, wait, what? That guy's on Cameo? Martha Stewart's on Cameo? What? I know. But she charges quite a crazy amount of dough.
Well, it makes sense. If you got it, why not take advantage of it? Well, Andy, aka David Wallace, thank you for enlightening us on your journey, your career, your inspiring career, which continues to. We never know where we're going to find you next. Thank you for making us laugh so much on The Office and all the other things you do. And just thank you for being you. And thank you for being
you son of a, how dare you? How dare you compliment me like that?
You son of a. All right. I'm going to end this.
Great to see you, pal.
Great to see you. I'm going to end this and see if anybody has any questions. No, it's okay. I asked a lot of questions. I've taken a lot of your time. So everybody, until next week, please subscribe to Small Talk if you enjoyed this kind of content. We like to talk to the best of Gen X, the best of our generation, including Mr. Wallace here.
This is the weak link week.
This was a little bit of an off show, but we'll be back strong. Yeah, we'll come back much stronger next week. No, this is fantastic. I've been trying to get you on for a while. So anyway, thanks, Andy.
Great to see you, pal.
Good to see
you. Hello
to
everybody.